Hey guys, sorry I can't be there with you today, but I want to thank Chris for stepping up and offering to come in and teach this class for you guys. I think you're going to get a lot of value out of it. So again, Chris, thank you for filling in for me, and you guys have a great day.
All right, so let's get into the idea of what we're doing. So we talked about, or Kevin talked about the fact that this meeting is going to be on the art of prospecting. So does anyone know what the difference between prospecting and alchemy is? And this is going to be open discussion. You guys are welcome to chime in whenever. Don't all go at once.
I got no clue.
No clue. That's okay. That's okay. Most people don't, and even the most experienced realtors don't. So prospecting is the art of finding gold in the dirt, and alchemy is converting dirt into gold. Okay. Oh. We are prospectors. We are not alchemists. Okay. So the reason that I go over that particular concept with you guys is because we have so many realtors who have the best of intentions whenever they start talking to customers, but for whatever reason, those customers don't convert, and then the realtor is beating themselves up about it. And the most important thing to take away from this is not every customer is convertible. Okay, does that make sense? There has to be a certain threshold of pain that they have, and if they don't have it, it doesn't matter how slick you are, whatever objection handlers you guys have, they're not going to convert. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Yeah, and it's not really a question. It's just based on my experience. Like you said, you beat yourself up, like what I do wrong. And I used to write down everything I used to tell the clients and everything, and all the follow-ups and everything. Yeah. And they just disappear. And then those are the ones that come on back on time and like, oh, I already worked with another realtor. I found the place after I helped them and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I've been questioning what I'm doing wrong, and I'm not doing it anymore. I do what I got to do, and then I move on.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's okay to get feedback from them. I've literally had friends who I've done multiple deals with, be like, hey, Chris, we're going to sell our house. Come over. All right, cool. And I'd get over there and I would do the regular listing stuff with them. I wouldn't even go through the presentation because we've been through it before. And then I would get there and do the, be like, all right, so this is your price range for the neighborhood. These are your comps. This is where we're going to go in at. Any questions? They're like, nope. They're like, all right, when can you have this place ready for photos? And they would tell me, and we would post date the contract, for like 2 weeks or, however long it took them to get the property cleaned up. And, they'd message me 2-3 days later. Hey, Chris, thanks for your time. We decided to go with our friend Tiffany. Like, what? Fuck it. Move on. Like, who cares? It's going to happen. And I'll request feedback. Oh, well, that sucks. What could have earned me the business? Oh, well, we just liked her better. Oh, that's cool. Have a good day. And you don't let it trip you up. You've already started booking more appointments besides them. So you're not losing your ass by losing that appointment. It's okay. So as long as you cover the bases, you guys are going to be fine with that kind of stuff. So moving on into the scholar versus the executioner. So scripts are one of the most important things that you can learn. I would say scripts are 99% of prospecting. You got to know what you're going to say and exactly when you're going to say it. But don't get too caught up in it. Although it's super important, if you sit there being the scholar who does nothing but study scripts versus the executioner who doesn't do anything with scripts, he just goes out there and starts making calls. The executioner 100% of the time will outperform the scholar 100-1. So it's important that you don't spend too much time practicing your scripts. Definitely practice them, but the more time you spend on the phone getting your ass kicked by these prospects, the faster you will learn and the better you will become with people. And just the art of talking with people, because that's all you're doing is you're having a conversation, and we're not turning the prospect into someone who is convertible. They either are or they aren't. So we are prospectors. We're dusting off the dirt to see if there's any gold there. If not, we move on. If there is, we just reveal it through a series of questions that are within the script. We're going to get into contact and lead. And then you guys go ahead and unmute yourselves. Can anyone tell me the difference between a contact and a lead?
Lead is someone that has potential in purchasing or listing. A contact is like someone that you haven't necessarily talked to or went through the questioning, that kind of stuff. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, you're absolutely on the right track with that. A contact is someone who you do have a conversation with. Whether they convert or whether they tell you to kick rocks, they still picked up the phone. You still had a conversation with them. Doesn't matter where the conversation goes, they're still a contact. A lead is super important, and there are 6 different criteria. There's 6 different criteria for what a lead actually is. And the reason that I go through this is because as realtors, we have a habit of forcing prospects into our CRM and they never convert. And the reason being is we didn't ask the right questions. All right. So as realtors, we fear rejection. We're humans. It is primal instinct to avoid rejection, because whenever a customer tells us no, that is one less person who's going to allow us to pay our bills. And we need to pay our bills. It's $5,000 telling you no. And that sucks because, that's a lot of money. It takes care of utilities, your mortgage, your car payment, all that stuff. So as realtors, we fail to ask the right questions because we are afraid of rejection. But the quality of your relationships and the quality of your customers comes from the quality of questions that you are asking people. So you need to confront rejection, and you need to be super direct and just take it on the chin. And it's the most exhausting thing. So whenever you get into prospecting, it's all about mindset. And that's the biggest thing that we're going to cover today. I do plan on doing a few live calls, but the biggest thing is mindset. All right. The very first one we went over is we are not alchemists. We are prospectors. If someone is convertible, we're going to find out. If they're not convertible, we're going to find out. We're going to make peace with it. We're going to let it go. We're not going to beat ourselves up about it. Okay. It is literally a numbers game. Whenever you get into prospecting, you're going to find that you go through so many no's, and you need to not let it drag you down. So what we're going to do is we're going to set expectation. So in terms of expectation, whenever you are talking to prospects right now, you're going to have about 150 conversations to 1 listing agreement. Does anyone have any questions on that? You can put it in the chat. You can unmute yourself, whatever you want to do. But you're going to have about 150 conversations to 1 listing agreement. And that's going to fluctuate depending on how hot the market is. Obviously, if it's hot, it's going to be less conversations to get 1. If the market is cooling off, it's going to be closer to 200 conversations. But right now, that's where we're at. So if you get into conversations and you're having several of them and you're not having any luck, it does not mean that you are on the wrong track. The more no's you get, you are 1 step closer to a yes. And ultimately those yeses, they can't not happen as long as you're asking the right questions. So let's get into the questions that I had mentioned. There's 6 criteria that turns a prospect into a lead. I'm going to have you guys write these down. So the 6 criteria to find out if someone is a lead: are we putting them in the CRM or are we just ghosting them? The first one is you ask them to meet. You need to ask for a meeting with them. All right. The second one, you need to figure out if they have to sell. We've all gotten on the phone with someone and tried to get the listing appointment. They're like, I'm not in a hurry. Just, if it sells, it sells. If not, I'll just rent it out. I'll have my buddy move into it. I'll just move back into it. I'll just hang on to it. I'll just wait until the next boom. If they don't need to sell, they're going to be either not convertible or they're going to convert and be the biggest pain in the ass client that you've ever had. I've literally just dealt with one. I was representing the buyer on it, and the listing agent was an absolute moron, and the seller did not need to sell the place. So he wasn't willing to do anything with it. The 4-point inspection failed miserably. And he's like, oh, that sucks. Yeah, well, I suppose you can do the wiring on it. I was like, no, you don't understand. It's not going to be insurable. So if this guy moves into it, he's not going to be able to get insurance on it, meaning that the loan is not going to close. And he's like, well, that sucks. Well, I'll probably just hang on to it then. I was like, oh my gosh, this, and that realtor who was representing him as his listing agent did not do his job to find out if the guy needs to sell, because he's going to be a headache for him a lot longer than he was for me. He was a headache once for me. So you ask them to meet, find out if they need to sell. You need a clear timeline from them. Okay. So you need to find out, how soon does this need to happen? If they don't have a clear timeline, they're going to be a headache. They're not going to be a good lead. All right. You need to find out, you need to ask them directly. Hey, you don't have any other obligations to another agent, do you? Ask them directly. Most people do. Okay. And you're looking for the ones who don't. You want to ask directly about the obligation part though. So instead of being like, oh, so, you're not working with another realtor, are you? Well, I mean, yeah, I got a buddy who said he would do it and this and that. Okay. Just so that way I'm clear with you, you wouldn't be open to any other options, even if it meant potentially getting more money, would you? No. Okay. Well, that's all right, man. Listen, I really appreciate your time. Get off the phone with them. They're not a lead. So ask them to meet. Do they need to sell? A clear timeline, no obligation to another agent. You need to ask them permission to have another conversation with them. That is the fifth part. If they agree to it, that is a lead right there. Okay. If you're like, I don't suppose it makes sense for me to follow up, and they're like, nope. Oh, okay. Well, good. Get off the phone with them. All right. That's 5 of the 6. The 6th one, get their email address. Okay. So that way you follow up. The biggest part, and I want you guys to write this down. The biggest part is follow-up. About 90% of your business is going to come from the follow-up. You're never going to meet someone and ask to marry them on the first date, and they say yes. Okay, so it's going to come from constant touches. It's about 6 to 8 touches that you're going to have with them before they actually convert. And I mean that, just like the prospect numbers of contacts to contracts, that's going to fluctuate as well. So those are the 6 criteria of what actually makes a lead. Now, this is the biggest thing right here that we're going to move on to. It's called staying in your lane. All right. The mindset that realtors have, and Dale touched on this briefly, is, I lost it to another agent, and no, you didn't lose it to another agent. That opportunity that other agent picked up, that was an opportunity that was meant for them. That was supposed to happen. If you are staying in your lane and you're just doing the right things, you're putting your head down and just moving, opportunity is literally going to be created out of thin air for you. If it's meant to be yours, it cannot be another human's. And if you have an opportunity that lands in your lap, you don't have to take from another human to make it yours. Okay. So this is all mindset on here. We're moving on to the next topic. Next topic is going to be, why are we here? It's as simple as picking up the phone, reading the script. So why are we here? I'll use this example. When Kevin and I were in Dallas over at the Tony Robbins event, they at one point, Tony asked, he's like, how many people here pick up the phone every single day and prospect? There were 3 of us who raised our hands, like 3, maybe 4, but that was a room of 5,000 people. So almost nobody does this stuff. And because of it, they go to these seminars hoping that there's some magic pill, some little magic bullet that's going to take them to where they want to be. But ultimately, if you want to be in control of your business and not be at the mercy of the wind, and you want to be the thermostat instead of the thermometer, you have to pick up the phone, face the rejection, ask the quality questions, follow up with these people, and do the things that the other realtors are not doing. Because the realtors who do not have a prospecting game plan, and if they're not being fed by another agent regularly, they're simply not going to last in the industry in these times that we're in, the slow market. I mean, I prospect a lot, and even I have slowed down tremendously compared to last year, so if you're just not doing it, you don't have any incoming leads, you have no lead sources, you are absolutely going to starve in this industry. So what is the best script? The best script is the one that you use, the one that you master, and spend maybe 5 minutes a day doing script training and just practicing, just repeat it. So that way it is second nature. Because when you're talking to a customer on the phone, you're supposed to be all ears. You are intaking information. And if you're thinking of what you have to say next, all this shit's going to bounce off and you're going to miss the important things. You're going to be like, yeah, so what has you wanting to move? And they're like, I literally just told you, my grandmother's dying in Colorado and I have to get up there. Oh, that's crazy. So you have to be second nature with your scripts and knowing exactly what you're going to ask. And those 6 pieces of information that you need to collect, you need to know them like the back of your hand. So that way you can just get it done or just have it written out in front of you. That's going to help a lot, because whenever we talk to people, we get off track, we start having conversations, we pace the room if we have a headset or whatever. And if you're not looking at your script, you might talk entirely too long on a subject that's irrelevant. And next thing you know, you're way out here and you've gone off track and the conversation lasts a lot longer than it needs to. It's not any more quality, because if they're not going to convert, you could have found that out moments ago instead of sitting there and talking with them for way too long about the weather or Joe Biden or whatever topics you guys decide to get into. And it's going to throw you off track. And ultimately in this industry, in any industry, time is money. So use scripts, print them out, put them in front of you, do a little bit of training on them, and then just start picking up the phone and reading to them. So the goal, whenever you're prospecting, you need to break it down into your daily action items. For instance, my goal is to talk to 20 new people every single day. It doesn't matter if they're for sale by owners, if they're expireds, it doesn't matter if they're out on the street, doesn't matter if they're a Z buyer. I got to talk to 20 new people every day, which will be 100 people per week, which means sometime in the middle of next week, I should hit my 150. And statistically, I should pick up a new listing agreement from that. And so if you're wanting to pick up listing agreements, every couple of weeks, you got to put in the time now and get through all those people. My goal is to get through those 20 people a day that don't need to convert. So that way I can find the one next week that does need to convert. So next topic is going to be go for no. So what is easier, getting a yes or getting a no? We've talked about the odds. We've talked about the numbers that you have to get through. So 149 no's to 1 yes. Obviously, it's easier to get a no. You need to carry that with you in your brain. Think of it as, how quick can I get them to tell me to buzz off? And that's literally, you're going to ask those 6 questions and you're going to be super direct about it. And that's the goal. And it's awesome because when you use the old scripts that they would give us about, hey, well, if one of us had a potential buyer for you, would you allow us to come by the house? And you're beating around the bush. They know that you're looking for a listing agreement. They're pissed that you're not just coming out and being directly honest with them. And you're going to get the worst side of people whenever you're not absolutely direct with them. So what you're going to do is you're going to call them, you're going to ask them directly these questions, and the customers are going to love it because you're not BSing them. You're probably the most honest person to call them today. And you're going to find out the fastest if they're a clear lead or not. All right. So be direct, find your criteria, talk in terms of no. All right. This is how we face rejection. We know rejection is on its way. And what you need to do is you need to agree with whatever the prospect tells you that is negative. All right. If they tell you they hate realtors, you know what? I cannot stand realtors either. I work with these guys every day. I'll tell you what, that is why I started working from home recently. So where do you plan on going whenever you move? All right. So right there, you're just going to roll with the punches instead of saying, well, not all realtors are bad. You're butting heads with them. You don't want to butt heads with them. You can't go against the grain and win. My coach would tell me, you can either be rich or you can be right, but you can't be both. So this is what a phone call is going to sound like. This is going to be the framework for it. Whenever they answer the phone, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to use their first name with an upward inflection in your voice. So if the prospect's name is John, and you better figure out their name before you call them, because if you're just calling from Zillow and you haven't pulled them up on the property appraiser website, you're going to sound too formal and you have a lot less chance of getting a conversion out of them if they're convertible. So if you're like, hey, is this the homeowner for 123 Main Street versus, hey, John, it's Chris. Those two approaches are night and day right there. You have a way better chance of getting rapport with someone whenever you are like, John. And the psychology behind it is whenever you say someone's first name, whenever they pick up the phone, you are coming to them like a friend, and they have no idea who the hell this friend is, but they don't want to sound dumb. So a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, or who is this? You know, and you start going from there. But if you're like, John, there's a lot less chance that they're going to hang up on you and say, is this a realtor? So we started with the opener, first name, upward inflection on their voice. The second part, we're going to use what's called an accusation audit. Okay. The idea behind it is they listed their house for sale by owner because realtors are fuck off. They don't want to deal with you. And so you need to address that before they can, because if you just start going into it like they want to talk to you, they're going to say, listen, I don't want to work with a realtor. Obviously, you don't want to work with a realtor. And if I'm playing stupid like I don't know that, it's just as bad as beating around the bush. It's going to piss off a prospect. So what you do is you get in front of it before they can say it. And once you label it, it literally makes it disappear. Like, so the accusation on it is going to look something like this. Hey, John, Chris, eXp Realty. Hey, listen, man, I know you probably got every realtor in the neighborhood calling you. I was just hoping I could ask you a quick question before you hang up on me. Is that fair? He can't say, I don't want to talk to a realtor because I already said it, you know. He's already responded to his first name. So he's agreed to have some type of conversation with me. But at the end of it, I asked permission to ask him questions. Is that fair? Sure. Or no. If it's no, oh, okay, fair enough. So even if it meant making more money on this house, it wouldn't be worth the conversation. No. All right. Have a good day, man. Next call. No emotions. So upward inflection on the voice, whenever they answer, using their first name, and then using the accusation audit and setting a horrible expectation and then allowing it to not be so bad is what you're doing. So listen, I know you got 1,000,001 realtors calling you. You are probably stressed out. I want to be one less person bugging you. I just want to ask you a quick question before you hang up on me. Is that cool? And go from there. So that's part one. Part two. Part three is you're just going to be direct and find your criteria. Okay. So get right into the 6 questions, you know? So it looks something like, hey, John, Chris with eXp Realty. Listen, man, before you hang up, I was hoping I could ask you a quick question. Cool, man. Heck yeah. Hey, listen, if I can make you a little bit more money on this house than you're currently looking at, would you be willing to meet with me? You've asked them to meet. Okay, you would be willing to meet with me. Well, that's cool. Well, cool house, man. What has you thinking about getting rid of it? Oh, you got to, go see grandma up in Colorado. Man, that's unfortunate, man. Well, listen, how soon are you trying to get there? Okay, you're trying to get there in the next 60 days. That makes sense. Listen, I would have to check out the house to even make sure it's something I'd be able to help you to sell. You don't have any obligations to another agent who's already doing this job, do you? You do? Okay, well, fair enough. It sounds like you might not be open to the idea of having a second opinion then. Oh, you would? Okay, well, fair enough. Listen, man, if I were to just come by, and just peek my head in the door, maybe give you a few, additional options on what you're already doing, would that be fair? Great. What's a good time to meet? Or you start setting times for them. I can meet tomorrow between 4 and 8, and then let them pick whatever times. Or you could take the approach of are mornings or afternoons better for you? Because now you've given them 2 options, and then once they pick mornings or afternoons, you just secure a time from there. This is stuff you guys have probably gone over before in sales training, or just whenever you guys are working with buyers. Let's see, what is the next part? Before you get off the phone, you got to get their email. So all right, well, that sounds good, man. I'm going to go ahead and send you a confirmation email, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4:00. What's a good email for you, John? Perfect. Hey, listen, I'm going to send you a copy of my resume, just that way you know who I am and you can kind of get familiar with me. If you see any red flags, you can tell me to kick rocks long before I show up. Is that fair? Great. Listen, man, I'll see you tomorrow at 4. Have a good one. Boom. All right. So there's many different ways you can ask those 6 questions that you need in order to qualify them. Let's talk about let's talk about the second one. Do they need to sell? There's a very specific way you want to ask it. Okay. And you never ask why. Why are you selling? And could any of you guys tell me why we don't ask why? Just take a stab at it.
Sometimes if like they're behind on mortgage or something like that, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's confrontational. And so whenever you're like, why are you selling? It's like, who the fuck are you to ask me that question, you know, because it could be very personal for them. And they think that, you know, obviously they're paranoid about their situation. You start asking why, and they think that you're kind of like seeing them naked, like you can see their problems, and they don't want to admit anything to you. So the less confrontational way, a total non-confrontational way to ask them why they're selling. Well, man, this is an awesome house you got here. What has you thinking about dumping it off? You're using what instead of why, but you're still asking why. You're just going around it. So, okay, well, yeah, that's great. You'd be willing to meet with me. Well, let me ask you this. You know, if the house doesn't sell, you're just going to rent it out, right? Oh, okay. So it's not an option to just keep it. So it sounds like you need to sell. You know, that's a good one. And then let's add a note in here. What I did there, whenever I said, oh, so if it doesn't sell, you're just going to keep it and rent it out, right? I'm intentionally putting information in there that may be false to them, because the human instinct, when another human is talking and says the wrong thing, the natural human instinct is to correct them. And 100% of the time, they will give you information you never asked for just because you made a false assumption about something. And not once did I have to ask him, well, can you just keep it and rent it out? Because now I'm prying again. It's just as prying as if I were to ask, why are you selling? You know, so can you just keep it and rent it out? Now I'm getting in there, and it's going to be uncomfortable for some people. Some people will respond well to it, but there's a lot that won't. And you want to make sure you include them in there, because you could have a very good lead. They're just squeamish. They don't want to be confronted. They may be bashful. They may, there's a million reasons why. So what has you thinking about selling? Okay, that's great. So, I mean, it sounds like if it doesn't sell, you're just going to keep it and rent it out. Oh, okay. So it's not an option to rent it out. I got it. My bad. And the whole time you're just collecting information, and you're sounding like a dumbass while you're doing it, which makes them think that they are superior to you. And that's what you want. You want to make them feel superior and like they're in control. You give the illusion of control to the prospect, and they will reward you every single time. We talked about roll with the punches. If they say something that is directly against what you're looking for, like they don't want to talk to a realtor, I just want to try it out on my own. I got to talk to the wife. These are all objections. All right. So we'll create another section on our paper, and I want you to put a star next to this one. This is going to be how to handle objections. All right. So whenever we get into prospecting, we deal with a lot of rejection on here, as we talked about already. And there's a way to handle those rejections, and it is a one size fits all type of approach, and you're going to love it. No other coach will teach this kind of stuff, but we do. So whenever you're dealing with an objection, there's going to be a skeletal framework to it. So, Elena, are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay. Throw out an objection that you've heard. Have you prospected before, Elena?
Not necessarily per se in the way that you've talked about it. Like,
okay. So no direct outbound phone calls?
Well, no, yeah. I mean, I've called out, but I mean, like from our CRM and like the lead pond and stuff like that. But I've just been taking notes on what you've been saying.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. So let me ask you this. What is an objection that you have heard like so many times, or one that you have found yourself getting hung up on?
We work more in the buying side per se. So, I mean, an objection that I've seen kind of, as the market has shifted is more so like, oh, I'm going to wait till interest rates go down or the market's going to fall out and home prices are going to drop. Like, I'm just going to wait, maybe till next year and look.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So that would be a good one. So we're going to wait until the interest rates fall. And you know what, Mrs. Jones, I would absolutely be wanting to do the same thing to make sure that I get the best rate and the best payment on this thing. Because ultimately it's all about saving money. Am I wrong? And then they'll say, well, no. Great. So if it meant, getting a house secured and then the rates fall, and then you could refinance into whatever rate you decided necessary without sacrificing getting into your home now, would it be worth a conversation? Okay, so that's a framework for that. What's another objection, you guys? I'm going to give you the skeletal framework. I'm showing you an example, and then I'm going to dissect these examples and show you what the skeletal framework is. So give me another objection.
Elena took the one that I was thinking about, because that's what I hear a lot on, of course, this side of, we don't do a lot of the selling.
Yeah, but it's universal, and I'll show you how.
Yeah, and it sounds like it is. I kind of got what you were trying to do, just kind of turn it around almost, and
that's exactly it.
Validate what they're saying and flipping it around to making them, oh, well, no, that's not right. And then you go on. So you move, you validate and you move on.
Exactly. So let's talk about that. All right. So there is 3 points to an objection handler. It is called ARP. So let's write down the letter A. The letter A is agree with them. Okay. The R is removing resistance. How do we remove resistance? So we label their emotions. Whenever they say something, any type of objection, I'll have to talk to the wife about it. You know what? I absolutely agree with that. And if your house is anything like mine, the wife is absolutely the sheriff in town. Am I wrong? No, you're not wrong about that. Yeah, that makes sense. So let me ask you this. If it meant, having an aggressive agent come in and at least point you in the right direction, would it be worth getting you on the calendar, even if she says no later on down the road and we had to cancel the appointment? Would it at least be worth booking something now? Because my schedule fills up super fast. So you're agreeing, you are removing resistance, and the P is you're pivoting. They throw that punch. Yeah, realtors suck. You know what? Realtors do suck. Let me ask you this, and you're just pivoting around, and you can use it for every objection handler. Now, it sounds like you guys have, I'm sure you've worked with sellers, but it doesn't sound like Elena's done any outbound prospecting for sellers. What about you, Jessica?
For selling, no, it's usually someone that I'm already working with.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Other than like she said, like Chime, or if we get a lead come in saying that they're looking to sell their house or something, then it gets passed off to one of us.
Gotcha. That makes absolute sense right there. Okay, so it's so this is like new to you guys, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is, and it's going to be helpful, and ultimately, like I said, the executioner is always going to do way better than the scholar in terms of production, because the executioner is out there getting their ass kicked with the nose and figuring out what to do different next time, and the scholar is sitting there studying theory, and theory versus real world application is always different in terms of what to expect.
If you come off and you fumble around, a lot of times they respect that more because you're not just going through the motion.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you know what you're going to say because you perfected it and you're not reading it, you're right. They can absolutely tell if you are reading from a script. So the reason that we do these types of things is we want to get it so that way it's second nature, because they're going to be able to tell. It's going to be robotic, and you're not thinking about what they're saying. You're thinking about what you're about to say next. and it's a lot less productive because you're not hearing pertinent information. They might have just given you the golden nugget on here. This is how you take me home. And you might have missed it because you're like, okay, next in the script is this, so do like 5 minutes of studying it, just practice, but spend a lot of time on the phone, screwing it up, seeing how people react to it, because it's a lot less robotic. And that's exactly what you're looking for. Parroting and tonality. So, Jessica, what made you want to become a realtor?
Actually, my realtor, when I moved down here, she was I like the hunt. I like to find the perfect home for that person. So I don't care if I have to look through 100 houses, which I think I've done with a few of my buyers. If it's not the right one, let's move on. And that's exactly what I tell them. I'm very upfront, forward. And I've actually had buyers, oh, well, we could do this and we could do that. Well, you just told me that it's not the one because it doesn't have this. Is it the one or is it not the one? Well, it's not the one. Okay, let's move on. Let's not waste time.
Gotcha. Absolutely. So what would you say has been your biggest obstacle in terms of doing more production than you have?
A lot of it initially was the housing prices. And then when the housing prices started coming down, but the interest rates started going up, then it was that. So it's just working around those two things.
Working around them.
Yep.
Okay, very cool. Elena, do you mind unmuting yourself real quick? There's something I'm looking for in here, and I'll let you know when I find it. All right. So, Elena, what made you want to become a realtor?
So initially, I decided to get my license so I could bring in extra income to our household, because I was more of like a stay-at-home mom type of situation. And it kind of progressed from that into, I have a long history of like customer service. I used to manage like retail stores and things when I was younger and in college and things like that. So for me, it kind of more so shifted into, I really like the relationship building aspect of like working on the buyer side. Like I have clients that send me Christmas cards and they send me pictures of their family at Thanksgiving, and like I have some clients where I've helped 4 people in the whole family buy a home. So for me, it's more about like, like Jessica said, like finding them like the perfect place, and they feel the commitment from me. So that's kind of where I get satisfaction out of doing real estate.
You get satisfaction out of it. That's brilliant. All right, very cool. Now, what would you say has been your biggest roadblock in doing more production than you have? What has stopped you from getting to like the elite level?
Me. And
you?
just time management, like just making the commitment, to like, I mean, when I first started real estate, it was never a full-time job for me, like just to be transparent and honest, and I was honest about that, like coming into the team, and then the market was obviously really busy the last like 2 years, so it was kind of not say easy, but it was easier per se for us to bring in a lot of revenue. So when it gets into the more challenging aspect of how the climate is now, it's just more me and making the commitment and the time management skills to really sit down and like seek out the leads and the money type of situation, if that makes sense.
Time management?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I have a young child, I'm married, other things go on. And so it's just the time management of setting aside to like, this is my business time versus this is my like clean the house time or run the errands or go to the grocery store or take lunch to school for my kid, or, that's kind of where it is for me. Where I struggle is just not sometimes putting 110% into it.
Gotcha. All right. So I got what I was looking for there, and it took me several attempts to get it. All right. So here's what I was looking for when I was asking you guys questions. I was looking for you to say something, and then I would repeat one very small segment of it, and then you would elaborate like crazy on it. I finally got it whenever I said time management, and you went from being like, yeah, just busy at home and this and that, and I could be better with time management and this. And I said time management, and I found out in there that you're married, you have a small child, you tend to do housework more than you do your outbound prospecting or the other thing. So I found out a lot just by saying time management, and you started opening up and giving me way more than I asked for, and that's perfect. So people don't know that you're doing it whenever you do that, and usually it's way more impressive, but you guys seem really open to just kind of giving information, and you guys are very good at speaking. Not every customer is. And so sometimes whenever you need to pull information out of someone, I'm glad I got it there and that it didn't take me 10 more minutes to get it. Whenever you want someone to elaborate on something, you don't have to ask them a question. You just repeat the last few words of their sentence with an upward reflection in your voice, and they'll feel the need to elaborate more. So I was like, time management. And you're like, yeah. So I found out about the husband, the kid, the stuff that you do around the house while you should be working, but it kind of steps in the way of it. And that's a universal application. That is called parroting. And that is one of the biggest tools that you'll use whenever you're doing outbound prospecting. Because like I said, people are very guarded. They don't want to deal with realtors. So whenever you start asking them questions, it's going to feel like poking and prodding. That's why we make it as non-confrontational as possible. That's a good way to get information from them, is just repeat the last few words of their most previous sentence with an upward inflection. So if it's like, Mrs. Jones, listen, it sounds like you don't really need to sell this place, do you? Well, I do need to sell because I need to get up north. Up north? Yeah, we're from South Carolina, and it just had some things come up, and it would be better if we moved. Oh, it'd be better if you moved. Yeah, and the sooner the better, and this and that, and they don't even know you're doing it, but you're collecting information, you're taking notes, because ultimately you're painting this picture of what's actually happening in their life. You're going through the list of the criteria for, is this person a good lead or not? And then you're deciding right then and there, are they a good lead? Is this going to be a pain in the ass customer? Can I help them? The most important thing is, how can I serve this person? With what they've told me, do I have anything to work with here where I can benefit them? Because if the answer is no, they don't go into the CRM. Now, whenever you're having these conversations, the most important thing in terms of your communication is going to be your tonality. I think in terms of communication, I think 10% is spoken word, and then the other 90% is divided up between body language and tonality. I forgot what the splits are, but they can't see you over the phone. So it's going to be like 10% what you say and 90% how you say it. So the way that you get into rapport with people, and this is another thing they won't even know that you're doing, you're going to match their tone. So if someone picks up the phone and they're like, hello, hey, is this Kim? Yes, it is. Hey, Kim, it's Chris, eXp Realty. Listen, I know you got 1,000,001 people calling you right now. I was just hoping I could ask you a quick question. Is that okay? Yes, it is. And so you're going to match their tone. If they're like, hello, hey, John, who's this? Hey, listen, man, it's Chris with eXp. Quick question. Is that cool? You're going to match it. And they're 99% of the time, they won't even know that you're doing it. They're going to see you as a mirror to them. And people are most interested in themselves, and they're most interested in people who are like themselves or people who they want to be like. So what you do is you just act as a mirror to them. You're going to match their tonality. You're going to match their style of speaking. And, to get them to open up more, you're going to parrot what they say. John, hey, quick question. If I could get this thing sold a little bit quicker than you and make you a little bit more money, you didn't have to do anything. Would it be worth a meeting? No, it wouldn't be. Oh, it wouldn't be. No. Fair enough. Well, I mean, so I don't suppose it would make sense for us to sit down and talk about how I could at least point you in the right direction and be honest with me. Well, I do got to do this, and I got to get up north. Up north? Yeah, I got to meet the family and this and, so, obviously in a role play, it's going to sound way different versus real world application, but it's so crazy how well these things work. And it just opens up and gives you little bits of nuggets of information, because, by asking direct questions, you'll get, your big pieces. but you never know if there's a gray area over here or just something that you haven't touched on yet. Sometimes by parroting and just matching their tonality, they give you that last nugget. And sometimes that is the key to getting that listing agreement that no other realtor thought to ask, you know? So does anyone have any questions, anything like that? Does anyone want to do a role play with me? Ring, ring.
Hello?
Jessica?
Yeah.
Hey, it's Chris. I'm a local realtor. Listen, before you hang up on me, I was hoping I could ask you a quick question if that's cool. Is that cool?
I'm really not interested.
Oh, listen, I'm not selling anything. I was just hoping to ask you a quick question if that's all right with you.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, listen. So I see that you're selling the property on 123 Main Street. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Perfect. And you're selling it on your own. No realtor involved at all, correct?
correct.
Perfect. I absolutely respect that, regardless of what the other realtors are about to tell you. I was just hoping to ask you a quick question. If for some reason the house just doesn't sell, it just sits on the market while everything else around you sits, would you be willing to sit down with me so I could help you get the payday that you initially set out for?
No, I think I'm going to try it on my own for a while.
Perfect. And you know what? This is absolutely the perfect market for you to go in it and ultimately net them the most money on your own. Because after all, you're after the biggest payday. Am I wrong?
Well, no, you're not wrong.
Yeah, heck yeah. So why don't we do this? Even if it meant not hiring me and I just pointed you in the right direction, would it be worth just having a conversation as two people, like 5 minutes, I'm in and out the door?
No, I really don't have time.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So it doesn't sound like you absolutely need to get rid of the place. It sounds like it's something you could just kind of do on your own time then, correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, fair enough. Hey, listen, I appreciate your time. You have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for taking my call.
Thanks.
Boom. All right. I found out right there. She doesn't want to meet with me. She doesn't need to sell. Next contact. All right. And you're going to have people who just hand your ass to you, but 99% of people are not going to be rude. You are going to get a lot of busy professionals who do need the help.
Usually I just hang up on them.
What's that?
I said, usually I just hang up on them.
Yeah. Well, don't do that. Be super sweet with them. Cause if every other realtor is doing that and you're the one that they didn't, you'll be the one that they remember.
No, when other people call me to see if I'll sell my house, I
gotcha. Yep. It's
I get letters and postcards and I don't understand why.
Okay, gotcha. Let's do that again. I'll be the realtor one more time, then we're gonna switch afterwards. I'm gonna have Elena do it. I'm gonna have Elena do it with me this time.
Hello.
Hey, Elena.
Hi, this is her. Who is this?
Hey, it's Chris, eXp Realty. Hey, listen, I know you probably have 1,000,001 calls coming in about your house. I was just hoping to ask you a quick question before you hang up. Is that cool?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, perfect. So it looks like you're selling 123 Main Street on your own. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. I absolutely respect that, regardless of what the other realtors are about to tell you. My question is, if I could help you get a little bit more money out of this thing than you're currently looking at, and you had to do a whole lot less work, would you be willing to sit down and meet with me?
Potentially. I mean, what things are you thinking that you can help me with that I'm not already doing?
Well, obviously, netting the most money on the house by getting the most exposure. I mean, if you're anything like me, it sounds like you're trying to squeeze as much money out of this thing as possible. Am I right?
Yes, that's definitely ideal.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if ultimately it would look something like we sit down, I look at the property, I'm not necessarily asking you to hire me, but I can at least point you in the right direction and leave you with something to work with that you don't currently have. I mean, if I were to try to do something like this with you, like, are mornings, afternoons better for you?
Mornings are better. My son's in school, so I don't have him around.
Mornings, that's cool. Well, first off, I mean, it's a cool property. What has you thinking about getting rid of it?
Just looking to upgrade, maybe move out of the area.
Okay, gotcha. And you're trying to do this before the end of the year?
It doesn't have to be before the end of the year.
Okay, gotcha. Well, what kind of timeline did you give yourself? Like, let's say the house sold today. Like, how long would you give yourself to get everything out?
To get everything out and find a new property, probably at least 60 days.
Okay, so it sounds like you're probably 2 months out. Well, that's cool. And let me ask you a quick question. You're not currently working with another agent, are you?
No, I've had other people call, but I haven't signed any agreements with anyone.
Yeah, that's cool. And I imagine you've probably heard from every agent in town. I mean, it's a hot property. You know, agents, are going to want to work hard for you to, to make sure it sells. All right. Well, that sounds good. So you said mornings are typically best for you. So if I were to just peek my head in the house tomorrow around 10 a.m., is that something you'd be able to do?
Let me see. Tomorrow at 10. Yeah, you could stop by for a short time. I have maybe like a 20-minute window.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'll be in and out, smiling a high five. Worst case scenario, if if I find out I'm not able to really help you, I'll at least point you in the right direction. We'll go from there. Really quick before I let you go, what's a good email for you?
My email is elenamay@yahoo.com.
Perfect. All right, Elena, here's what I'm going to do in the interim. I'm going to send you a copy of my resume. I'll also send you over a detailed price analysis of your current neighborhoods. That way you can kind of see where you stand. If you could look those over before I see you, just in case you see any red flags, something that might make you want to tell me to take a hike, that would be absolutely awesome. But I'll tell you what, I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Go ahead and check out that email, and I'll send you a copy of my business card after we disconnect. Fair enough?
Yeah, that sounds fine. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. And that call is done. I got the appointment booked. I'm going to send them a calendar invite through email. I'm going to send a copy of my resume through email. I'm going to send them an MLS email that is going to give them live updates on things that are going under contract in their neighborhoods. That way they know what to expect. And we're going to go from there. And that's literally the art of prospecting right there. Is you keep it super simple. You keep it super direct, super honest with the people. And most importantly, you're going to be honest with yourself about, about your intentions. And, did I actually have a lead, or am I just forcing someone into my CRM because calling another lead is scary to me? And I'm afraid they're going to reject me. I'm afraid they're going to be a dick, so I'll just work with this guy and I'll send him emails and hopefully he'll convert. Well, we don't fucking pay our bills on hopes and dreams here. We pay our bills on selling houses and getting closings. And we get that by dodging the BS and finding who the real ones are, dusting them off, and that, the diamond is within. So, does anyone have any questions?
You were talking about a resume. What do you put in your resume?
Oh, snap, resume. So you can go online and build a resume. When I signed up for my coaching program, my coach actually did like a resume builder thing with us. So it's just a chance for you to talk about how awesome you are as a realtor. And it's also designed to put the marketing plan, because every realtor has a marketing plan. When you sit down with a prospect, they're like, so what are you going to do to sell my house? Well, it's in the resume that I sent you last night. I could spend another 2 hours with you talking about it, or you could just peek at it in the email after I leave. The 100% they'll want to just peek at it. But you're going to put your marketing plan. You're going to put your history of sales. Like I sell houses on average of 30 days, or or I was awarded Rookie of the Year for OMCAR 2020. Let's see. Put in there your mission statement. Like mine's really corny, so I put in there, as a licensed skydiver, I understand that selling a home can be a leap of faith, but with the right team and the right actions, we can help calm the winds and ensure that you land on your feet. Like that's what I put in there. And that's like my opener. And then I have like the marketing plan in there. I have past sales, I have past testimonials. And then just the end of it is, the call to action. You can put in there your listing agreement percentages, stuff like that. I recommend you put the percentages in there, because they'll have you you'll have them ahead of time, kind of anticipating what everything is going to look like working with you. And if they don't call you back and say, hey, it looks like you're doing this, I don't want to work with you. Guess what? You just saved yourself a 40-minute drive to Marion Oaks. You know what I'm saying? So you put everything in front of them. You let them study it on their own. If they don't study it too freaking bad, and you get to the appointment, whenever they start asking you specifics, don't give them specifics on what you're doing. You know, it's there's an old story about the magician and the mule, and it's kind of long, but to sum it up into a really quick summary, this guy needed his field plowed, and there were all these guys who were mule owners, and they were coming and they were offering deals. Oh, rent my mules, pay me to use my mules. They do this, they do this, they do this, they do this, and basically just make an ass out of themselves. And they were commoditizing themselves by giving specifics. Well, one day this magician comes up and he's like, oh, you need the field plowed? Boom, he snaps his fingers and it's done. And the guy goes, well, how much do I owe you? And the magician charged twice what the donkey owners were charging. And he's like, oh, well, that's way too much money. And he snaps his fingers again, and the field goes back to needing to be plowed. And he's like, whoa, what'd you do that for? He's like, well, you can go pay one of them to do it. He's like, yeah, it's not as convenient though. He's like, okay, well, that's fine. He ended up paying the magician full price, and he didn't understand at all what the magician was doing, but the magician still won his business. Or the story of the dentist, guy goes to get his tooth pulled. Guy pulls out his tooth, or he books the appointment to get his tooth pulled, and he says, how much is it going to cost me? He said, it's going to cost $500, take 15 minutes, be totally painless. He's like, shit, $500. I was thinking 300. He's like, okay. He's like, he said, I'll yank it out in 15 minutes. It's going to hurt like hell. It's going to take half the day. He's like, good Lord, I don't even want to imagine what $100 would cost me. He said, we're not using an anesthetic. It's going to take all day. And he's like, no, I'll just pay the $500. And so at the end of the day, you don't want to commoditize yourself by giving specifics. You want to tell them what is going to be accomplished, not how you're going to do it. So, man, I'm going to sell your house while you sit back and wait to collect a check. How does that sound? Great. They have no idea what the fuck you just told them or how you're going to do it, but you're so confident in your approach that you're going to do it. And if they want the specifics, they're in your resume. Chances are they won't look at it, but that's why you have the resume. It's like your magic spell book. And you're telling them, I'm going to cast a spell. You can go in there and read the spell book, see how I'm going to do it, or you could just trust me. They have the information here, but they're just going to go with their gut instinct on it. That's, like I said, it's prospecting. It's not perfect. It's not everybody. It's not a one size fits all, but that's why you have the resume in a nutshell. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, very cool. So, if you're wanting to know how to build a resume, like I said, you're going to have like an opener of your mission statement, why you want to serve customers, your marketing plan, all right, lockbox, we're going to do photos, MLS, international MLS, YouTube videos, Facebook Marketplace, put that all in there, and then have client testimonials. If you can get your clients to write you testimonials, usually that's pretty easy, because they love you. And then just have that all put together. You could do 4 pages, 5 pages, 10 pages, whatever you want to do, and just have it. Make it look pretty. Use Canva, the coolest way to do it is you could design it on Canva, and then once it's all done, put it into PowerPoint or like an HTML flip book, something like that. So that way they can digitally just turn the pages on it. Those are super cool. And it looks really professional. It's going to stand out above the other realtors who are just cold calling. And they're like, yeah, I'll send you a copy of my fucking vanilla generic business card, So that's how you do that. You stand out above the crowd by having a resume. It helps out so much. And not every other person is going to have a resume. And if they do, most people are going to over explain what they're going to do, and they're going to commoditize it. So yeah, the magician and the mule, that's kind of a hard one to communicate to you guys, but it's so important because it literally sets you apart from the rest of the realtors. You're telling them what you're going to get accomplished. I'm going to build you a fucking house. How's that sound? Instead of saying, all right, well, I'm going to start by laying this slab, and then we're going to get the nails and the screws and the trusses, and we're going to put, you're not commoditizing it. I'm going to build you a house. You get to sit back and wait. How's that sound? And the confidence that you exude, and plus you have a fancy shiny resume going on with it, you're going to be bulletproof in that. So
if you would do me a quick favor and click the like and subscribe button below, that way you always get notified whenever we release a new video.